to everybody. My name is Alex. I'm the CEO of Paktor Group. Right, it's the first time I'm joining this online version of LTR, so great to see everybody down here. So at any point in time, I mean, just put down your questions if you have any, and I'll try to answer the best I can. Yeah. Right. So so I just want to quickly run through what Paktor is about. So Paktor was founded back in the year 2013. There was this founder called Joseph, my business partner, and at that point in time, I think we started a dating app initially, right? It's called Paktor in Singapore. And soon after, as it continues to evolve and expands, I joined the company, starting off the offline business. So in 2014, we started offline, and right now we're doing these 5 verticals for offline, including personalized matchmaking, LGBT matchmaking, dating events, grooming consulting, and also we do some form of corporate sales. Yeah. So just zoom in a little bit more about the online side first. So Paktor is actually a dating app. The word Paktor just stands for dating in Cantonese. So it's Paktor. That's how it sounds in Cantonese. Right. In terms of mechanism wise, it's similar to Tinder, where they swipe left and right. And we operate on a freemium model where users can just do their normal filters, conversations, and if they want more filters, they'll probably have to subscribe and they can unlock those features. Yeah. So in terms of user base, those are some of our key markets that we are operating in. We have about 20 million users across this region. And to note that it's targeting the young. For us, our entire group is the younger crowd that we are going for is between the 18 years old to 35. Right? That's what the app is positioned to do. And zooming over to the other side, which is our personalized matchmaking, we do. So for personalized matchmaking, we used to have offices, physical offices in each of the cities that we operate. At one point, we were doing nine office, and people come down to our office to meet us personally and tell us what they're looking out for, and we can meet them in person to know about them. And after we start looking out for the matches for them. For those who don't need any help in finding, we also have consulting services to help them be more confident, dress better, more successful on their dates. We also do dating events. Pre-COVID, we were doing about 2 to 4 events per country. So those were it's very good marketing for us in terms of like PRs and activities that more people can engage with our brand. Yeah, so that is for offline. For offline, we have about 500,000 users throughout this the cities that we operate. Again, for this one is a higher price point. Usually when people graduate from school, then they will start to come in contact with our brand. So we are aiming at those between 6 to 50 years old. So in terms of our operation, generally we enter a market using the online app first, right? We use Paktor app to launch, and people find it easy to start off a dating service with us by downloading the app. And subsequently, once you've gotten some form of traction, we will enter with an offline arm, an offline office or offline setup. And this is actually mostly to cater for those who have higher propensity to not just to spend, but they are more eager to settle down sooner, right? And so that's where GaiGai comes in. In the different markets, we call our offline brands slightly differently too. So that is for those who come down for physical meetups or personalized matchmaking. Right, then the next step is we synergize between the two parts in those countries where we start marketing, we start inviting clients on our app to our offline events. So those kind of interaction between the two services starts happening. And soon after, they will connect to our mainframe where people can start moving across Asia and dating across Asia. So for example, I could have gotten a dating service in Singapore and I could go to Hong Kong for a match. Right? So that is how we try to make all this connected. Right, some of the examples on how we leverage on each of our services include, for example, in our coaching service, we ask our users to use our dating app, right? So our consulting service, right? We ask them to download our dating app and use our app as a tool to assess whether they have improved, whether they have improved, right? So for example, we will say that, hey, that the homework for this weekend is getting 20 matches, right? And are you able to get those 20 matches? So they have to improve on their profile, things like that. We also dedicate some of our coach towards those users who are not very successful in matching, right, on a dating app, and helping them become more successful on app as well. And for those who are long term, not being able to find a very suitable date on the app, we can also get them to go to offline space by getting our sales consultant to talk to them and see whether they want to consider other form of dating products or services to help them find success. Yeah, so that is how we connect. Right. Um, right. So this is something that I just want to bring out for an Asian dating kind of landscape. I think something that we find very important is a term called localization, right? In each of the market that we operate in, actually there's a lot of nuances that we have to take note of. Right. For example, in Singapore, I think what we see is that the topic about religion and race is actually very, very sensitive, right? There are people who are, and this for the dating landscape especially, and there are people who are not sensitive, or companies who are not sensitive in these topics. They actually get apprehended, right? So we have to make sure that in our provision of service, we have to take note of all these details. In the middle one in Hong Kong, back in 2019, actually there was riots happening. There's two camps. They call it the blue camp and the yellow camp. The blue camp is those that's pro-China, and then the yellow camp is the other side, right? And because of that riots and disagreements, that created the new generation of singles to be mindful about who they want to date. That they do not want to date across the different camps, right? So that is also something that kind of take note of when we're doing our apps and also on the offline matchmaking, and that becomes another field that we have to take note of, right? And then the third point about Taiwan, for example, another market that we operate in, is that they're also very superstitious, right? They're a lot about luck, a lot about you see a lot of temples in Taiwan, right? And they believe very much in the zodiacs, horoscopes, and it's critical that we take note of those as well. So there's some of the points that in terms of our operation, we were, each of the country that we operate in, we are very mindful. So how do we try to localize, right? In terms of the branding wise, we are also slightly different, right? For Paktor, in Taiwan and Singapore, it's called Paktor, but actually in Korea, we name it slightly differently. We call ourselves Swipe, again, to make it more able to connect with the locals over there. In terms of the features that we have, we also have it different across the country. Some, not all. Right, so for instance, you can see on the screens, we have the ability to provide stickers for users to send stickers to each other, right? And for someone who is in Taiwan, for instance, and if they want to give a sticker to the other user in Taiwan, they can give something as relatable as a bubble tea, a cup of bubble tea, a sticker of the Taipei 101, that building. And if they go to Singapore, they will give stickers that's on the left, like a durian, something that's more local. Right? So I think that's the increased touch that we will try to go for to increase engagement. Another way that we have been localizing has been to take note of some of the local like developments. And an example is that we set up a business unit called Header back in 2018. So that is actually a gay personalized matchmaking service. After the country actually announced in 2018 that they have legalized gay marriages, right? So that was also a very good opportunity. And right now, I mean, we also have a team size of about 10 running solely on this space in their country. We also do connect with local players that are local partners that are that people resonate with. So again, like just now I did mention like temples, right? Just not couple of months back, I think for our Taiwan team, we work directly with the Love Temple. Right? People go there to pray for love, find a life partner. We work with them for some of the accessories they usually give up at Temple, and use that as a way for us to connect and generate leads as well, right? For part of our campaign. In Singapore, we also did with a tourist attraction at our aquarium. We booked the aquarium to the night, and a couple of hundred people came by, and they were meeting up through the. I mean, there were different activities in the aquarium that we planned it for them, right? So those are ways that we try to make it more increase the touch point with them. I just also want to bring up this topic about COVID. It has actually quite drastically changed the way that we have operated our business over the last 2 years. As you can see from the photos, actually the streets are very much. I think probably in quite a lot of ways in each of the country there are periods of lockdown too. But you can see in Singapore and back in 2020 on the left side, the town area all empty, and on the right side just earlier this year, Hong Kong was all empty because of a lockdown. And for offline dating business, we are mostly people coming down to our office to do profiling. So it was a very good pivoting point for us, and we actually shifted our business heavily to online. And even up to now, we are actually has been sticking with most of our arrangement, kind of COVID arrangement, even up to today. Right. So one of the key things we did was that we have removed most of our offices. So we did like what I mentioned earlier. We had about 9 offices at the start. Before COVID, we cut it down to only about 2, right? Mostly brought everybody online, right? And we're operating through Zoom for internal, external kind of interactions. And because of that shift, it made a lot of things possible. So, for instance, even right now, if we declare 100% work from home, it's possible for us to operate that way. Yeah, so we were thinking, hey, do we actually need offices anymore? Right. So that was something that came to mind. We are also able to sell across market without having a sales team in each of the country as well. So we can actually sell from Malaysia to Singapore, having matchmakers from another country supporting another country's matchmaking services. We could do that. Our workshops, we used to do workshops targeted at a particular country. So, for example, Singapore workshop or Taipei workshop. Right now, we can do a region where we can invite people from all around to join a workshop online. We also did, like for example, we used to have staff that is based in Korea supporting marketing for our app, and then right now we actually can have this staff based in Taiwan, and he or she can be a Korean who speaks the language, and supporting marketing for our Korean operation. So that was also something that made possible because everything was brought online. We also do overseas kind of dating events, physical events going online. So another example is like during the lockdown, people couldn't travel. Right? We brought travel to them by having a dating event where our local staff in Taiwan walks through a tourist attraction live stream, and then Singaporeans were the singles going through this event. They were talking through like, hey, I like to say, oh, finally we got to see like this part of this Taiwan where they missed out for so long. They can even buy things in Taiwan and we ship it over to Singapore back then too. So those are some of the activities that was made possible. I guess maybe some of you all have also tried like matching virtually. So myself matching a couple virtually during the COVID period. Yeah. So some of the future exploration that we are also working on thinking about is also that the involvement into this metaverse. I mean, we have not been actively been working on this part, but whenever there's opportunity, we do consider some form of new way to engage millennials, new way to engage those who are embracing this kind of technology. Right. So we did our first run in June this year. We placed our singles onto a metaverse, and they can walk around at home to their computer, and they can network, converse, and meet up with people 100% on to their metaverse space. Yeah, so that we had pretty good review. We did multiple rounds after that, so it was quite interesting kind of way for us to increase our awareness and make it as more relevant. Something that I think is also getting more and more important is about dating safety, and we have been careful about scams, and this is actually a topic that even the local government or local police force do work with our app to try to increase the security or safety of our services. So how do we educate our users to be careful, right, using our service? So, and I believe that there's a lot more opportunity where we can integrate some form of verification or more forms of verification of users online to make it more real, more trustworthy. It includes cross-referencing like social media's information, their social accounts, to validate information that they have put onto our app, as well as also integrating some form of like digital identification, where, for example, on the screen on the right, you can probably see that actually in Singapore we have something like that by the government, where our identities, our virtual identities, are actually on a certain platform. They call it SingPass in Singapore. Right, so we can actually integrate some of these kind of features into our app to make sure that those users are kind of like verified with a true digital identification. Yeah, so I think those are some of the points that we will continue to focus more on and explore for Paktor. Okay, with that, I think I just took this time to mostly introduce what we are, who we are, what we do, and some of our thoughts about navigating through this dating space from Paktor. Right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Great, thank you, Alex. And I've got a few questions for you. I see quite a few questions. Right, so I'm going to go in order that you voted them up. So if you wouldn't mind voting up the ones that you most want to see, and I'm just going to pick off questions and for the next 5 minutes. So Alex, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. You know, what I'm most fascinated by your company about is that you've melded online and offline, which is kind of an Asian thing, dare I say it, because, you know, in Asia it seems like matchmaking is more an accepted norm of how to meet someone, and the online has almost come after that. And I think in the West, what we've experienced across Europe, for example, matchmaking is far smaller, far less a cultural norm. So I think the most important question I think to ask you to back that up is, like, which side of your business is the largest revenue-wise? Online dating versus coaching, which is different from matchmaking, versus the actual matchmaking services.
Right. Well, I guess there are different phases of our history where this ratio did change. I think at this point in time, I would say it's almost 50-50. It's almost 50-50 for us. Within the offline space, our matchmaking is still more primary compared to our coaching business. Yeah, but I think we see a lot of opportunity in coaching. There is more and more focus about coaching as well. We see coaching having a much better review and experience for our users. Yeah, so I think there's a growing market for coaching in this part of Asia. But as of now, I think people are still coming in straight in for a service that can immediately give them some form of dates. Yeah, as of now, I think that's how we put that ratio. Does it answer the question?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, 50-50 is fascinating. Yeah. I mean, that's just such a precedent for most companies in the dating space, and a real eye-opener. You know, we're so used to. I really think that it's like two separate disciplines. I think the folks who are focused on internet dating, it's very difficult to make that mental adjustment to the real world. And even, you know, one of the things that I hope to do with this conference is bringing together a smattering of matchmakers to kind of flavor up the dating industry, because matchmakers do have that one-on-one contact with end users. which we generally
Right.
don't have as much of. And it's a different context, really, I'd say.
Right. I would say that I think one of the ways that we have done this to make it work is that we have dedicated teams for both sides. So they have separate KPIs, they have separate goals, and that allow them to just optimize their own. So if it's on a single team, right, I guess there will be biasness in how they allocate, and therefore the other side might not be able to thrive as well. Right. So I think that was one of the things that did help. But we see a lot of synergies, right? We see them as people coming into our platform, and they can come in any format. So whether they come in as as a coaching client, joining a dating event, and once they're in, I think our job is to introduce different kind of services that may suit them, because we believe that every individual have different kind of products or services that suits them, be it their budget or be it their personality, right? So someone that may be very extroverted might do very well in a dating event. It will outshine people in that event itself. But there are those more introverted might need some form of dating services that fits them. Yeah.
Just as an aside, would you say that it would be accurate to say that most people who come to you looking for matchmaking services end up needing coaching services? Would you say that's a truth or an untruth?
I guess this need has to come both ways, right? I think we can prescribe, but they may not want it. Right? They may
Yeah.
not say that I want to consume it, right? So we normally try to ask them to have a taste of it to see whether is it useful for them, and if it's not useful, that's fine. Um, but I would say that not all would like it, and not all would see that they need some form of coaching. Yeah.
Is it generally women that will accept coaching more than men?
Whoa, okay. Negative. I would say, okay, so just now I did put on our slide, our database for offline
Yeah.
is actually, in fact, both more male than female. Right? For us, it's
Yeah.
more male than female. So I think based on our
Okay.
own distribution, it might be slightly biased too. So we get more males joining our
Yeah.
coaching as well.
I see. Yeah. Gotcha. I have a question from Saitishra from Matrimony. So I'm going to put that on stage so I can read it off here. How many customers on average can the matchmakers handle individually? And what is the typical process followed in terms of servicing them? This is Matrimony, by the way.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks for the question. We do it quite differently. So we have two teams. We have our team of staff that meets up with the client, and we try to get them on board to our services. We have another team that does the servicing part, right? So they are not the same person, right? So two different teams. So on an average, if it's from this client servicing side, I would say maybe about 50 per matchmaker takes care of about 50 clients, and what's the typical process for in terms of servicing them? If it just follows through. Okay, so another thing that I just want to highlight is that we have different tiers of service. We imagine it to be like taking economy class or taking business class. So they have different tiers of service. The higher the tier, the more personalized it gets to be. The highest tier, we take a single person from sales all the way to fulfillment is the same person. So I think that is our more elite clients. But our mainstream GaiGai clients are separated by two pools or two groups of people selling or onboarding and fulfillment. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And Sai, let me turn this question around to you, if you wouldn't mind commenting in the comment section. How many does Matrimony have per matchmaker? I know you have different levels of service as well, but generally speaking, for the kind of the mainstream matchmaking offering, how many people are assigned to a matchmaker for Matrimony? So I'll turn that question around. So next question is from Guillaume from Cedars, and he asks, what do you mean by physical dates going online?
Right. So we used to do physical dates. Our clients would meet up at a restaurant, and we'll do the booking, and they will just show up. During those COVID period, they don't go to a physical space. They go onto a Zoom call, and when they're on a Zoom call, we introduce ourselves. So we enter in the Zoom room as well, introduce both parties. Uh, and after they are kind of warmed up, so there's some ice breaking as well. And after that, we will exit the call and let them continue the interaction. So we do monitor the success rate too by doing online dating. I guess they can sustain at least a 30-40 minutes call. I think that's not an issue. But I think if given a choice between physical dates and this kind of online introduction dates, in Asia for now, more still prefers the physical dates. Yeah. So if we offer to clients that if today I offer a client whether do you want to go physical or offline, physical dates or online dates, more will still uh, lean towards the physical dates.
We've got another question from Sai. When it comes to offline matchmaking, what is the biggest challenge with respect to the service quality, and how do you handle it?
Well, I guess there are many challenges in offline matchmaking. It's a very people business, right? I guess, and people always come in with certain expectation, and in fact, they come in thinking that buying, engaging with us equals to getting out of singlehood. I'm speaking on behalf of like those Asian markets that we cover, right? And on the other side, to us, our role is actually not to guarantee that success. Our role is to help them set up dates, right? And whether or not they eventually get together, I think there's still some form of uncertainty there. Right. So the biggest challenge down here is how do we meet in the middle such that they can lower their expectation when they are joining our service. Because if you want to lower it after they pay, it's going to be very painful, right? They're not going to accept it. Right? So how do you make them remember that they have lowered their expectations? So how do we draft our contract and make sure that everything is specified as clear as possible what we're going to offer, and match up with that with our service with our matchmaking service behind after their onboarding. I guess that is the biggest challenge that we have always been facing.
And our last question is from Carsten, who runs Online Personals Group, which includes the likes of B2 and C-Date. So Alex says, with the shift to online you are describing, are you looking to add countries? And which ones? What are the key challenges for you when adding markets? So your call.
Well,
what else looks good?
and that's a very valid question. It's something that we are always thinking. As one city matures, we continue to look for the next one, something that we can manage. So I think based on our approach so far, we have countries that we are now operating in is Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Malaysia. For offline, for online, we have one more country which is South Korea. So we have that. So I think an obvious one that we are thinking about whether we can introduce an offline one into Korea. I think that's something that we have. We will try to see whether we can materialize that. And apart from that, I think the next step is probably still within this Asia space, which we are more familiar with. I think there's still some low-hanging ones that's still around in this part of the world. We're looking at probably one or two more Southeast Asian countries like Indonesia or Philippines that we are targeting to see whether we can start off with an app, and maybe offline can join shortly after. Have not yet at this point in time considered outside of Asia yet, but the draw factor is that probably the currency strength and the ability to pay is going to be higher in some of these other markets. So I think those will be something that we will continue to see whether there's opportunity to enter.